Next up is Bruce Bobell. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, Tucson had a big-time semi-pro league, baseball league. That was, everybody wanted to play in that league, and Bruce was one of the coaches in that league, and also then he got a basketball league going. But I remember that. I played 1 year after high school. Before I went to Mason, I signed with Houston after that. But that was the league to play in, and that was, you know, kids looked up to those guys playing in that league, and this is one of the guys that got to start, Bruce Bobell.
First, I'd just like to say I'm very honored and humbled by this recognition, but I'm also very proud to accept it on behalf of all the players, coaches, and friends that I had the pleasure to work with in the late 60s and early 70s. I want to thank the selection committee, and I'm also very thankful that most of them are old enough to remember that far back. A big thank you to all my family, friends, and former players and co-workers that are here today to support me, with special thanks to my daughter Lisa, who spent a chunk of time of her childhood at ballparks and gymnasiums. And I especially want to thank my wife Melinda and my brother Gary for believing in me enough to submit my name for consideration. How my selection came about was when Gary, a few years ago, read about a previous induction class in the newspaper and mentioned to Melinda that he felt that our accomplishments and the accomplishments of our teams were equal to or superior to the accomplishments of some of the inductees of that particular class. Gary was always involved with our teams, either as a player on the baseball teams, keeping the scorebook at the basketball games, or as an assistant coach on our little 2x football teams. He was with me every step of the way. Melinda then said, well, why don't we submit Bruce's name and accomplishments to the selection committee, but don't tell Bruce because he probably would not want us to do that. And the first year was not selected, but it doesn't end there. What the committee didn't know was that Melinda's a marathon runner, and she doesn't stop until she crosses the finish line. So when I wasn't selected, she continued to pursue it over the next few years until she wore them down, and now here we are. It's even more special to go in with Coach Larson, a man I've always had great respect for, and I'll always wonder what Coach could have been able to do if he'd have had the opportunity to recruit and coach from the McKill Center. I'd like to thank some of the guys that helped me gain credibility when we first organized the teams that went into to the excellent accomplishments. In 1967, we formed the Jamison Sporting Goods basketball team in the new Arizona Basketball Association. And I was the business manager, and Buddy Doolin was the player coach. Buddy coached the team to an undefeated league record of 21-0, and his leadership attracted the best players in the city to our team. So thanks, Buddy. I want to thank my good friend Rudy Castro. In 1969, we won our first AAA City League Baseball Championship, and I was the business manager and a player on that team, and Rudy was the field manager, and he took us to our first championship. My lifelong friend Mike Romano, who played for our early baseball teams, and we later teamed up to lead the Tucson Youth Football Wildcat Mighty Might Reds to a city championship. My good friend Frank Coronado, who couldn't be here today, who was so instrumental in helping and providing support when we formed the Southern Arizona Baseball League in 1970.